Alright, we'll be doing brake pads and rotors. The 07 Saturn Ion. Try to do this as quick as possible. We're going to take our wheel cover off, 19 millimeter. Get those little plastic nuts loose. Now we got a 19 mil on the lug nuts. There's a four stud. 4 lug. So we'll zip that little guy off. Here's that. Then we got a 14 millimeter on these caliper bolts. Once you break them free, they usually just spin by hand. So that's pretty easy, right guys? Alright, we'll grab a good size flat head. We're replacing rotors and pads. We're not worried about hurting nothing but the caliper. Get it in the groove there and press this caliper back. Here we go. We got it pressed all the way, almost all the way in. We're gonna make sure our sliders are loose here, not froze up. They're good. We're gonna clean and grease those anyways. High temperature silicone based brake grease. I use Sil Glide. I think that's the best stuff. So we've got 15 millimeter on the mounting bracket bolts. 2 on the back. And this guy's gonna come right off. Pop these pads out. There we go. Those pads out of the way. And we bought premium brake pads, comes with new hardware. You should always replace the hardware. If you don't, make sure they're nice and clean and not bent up. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in my bench vise for cleaning. Pop that in there real quick. To hold it still. All right, now we got our rotor. If you're reusing your rotor, hit on this spot, not the friction surface, but we're replacing it, so we don't care. If your hub assembly's all rusted up, take the wire wheel to it. This one's pretty clean, looking good. Now we're gonna compress that caliper. Oh, where'd my tool run off to? There it is. You can use a caliper compression tool, C-clamp, whatever you have to do with the brake pad as padding. These are metal calipers, so you're not gonna break them by clamping them with some big channel blocks like this. So we're gonna press that caliper in all the way. That's good. If it's not pressing back, you might have a bad caliper or something. Clean the rust off from here. This is pretty clean. Let's grab some brake grease. Just put a little bit on that seal of the caliper. Maybe these little ears. It's good to go. Perfect. We need a rag for our fingers now. And we'll grab our rotor. Spray your rotor down with some brake cleaner to get rid of that shipping oil that's on there. Slide this caliper out of the way. Now we did press that brake fluid back up into the caliper, the old brake fluid, so recommended to bleed these brakes afterwards. Probably a good idea, eh? I like to put 1 lug nut on for these, just to keep the rotor still and straight. Now I don't torque it down, I just put it on there so, you know, not too tight. Just enough to keep the rotor straight. Now we gotta clean this mounting bracket off, right? I've got it in my bench vise, right here. And we got our new pads with our new hardware. And we got our little squealer tab that clips onto these little grooves. I'm gonna put that in the top inside pad. So let's see if we can put this camera right here where I'm gonna be doing the cleaning. All right, you can use a wire brush, wire wheel, whatever to clean these out. But first we're going to take a look at these. Somebody put anti-seize in these instead of brake lube. That's not good. Anti-seize is too thick. It hardens. It's not good. Use brake grease. Keeps them sliding. See, a little bit in the boot. Alright, so we're going to pull these out. This is important. Make sure these stay nice and clean. This side's going to have a little plastic boot on it. Make sure there's no crud in there. It's pretty clean in there. Just got this goopy anti-seize in it. Wire wheel these if they're all rusty. This one doesn't need a wire wheel and looking good. We'll put a little dab inside that boot. And we'll coat this guy with some brake grease. And get them back in there. Do a little twist. It's moving nice and free now, a lot better than that anti-seize that was on there. Do the same thing into this one. We've got a lot of rust buildup where the hardware sits, where the pads will sit on top of it. And what that rust will do is just stiffen up the brake pads and make them wear unevenly. Make them wear out fast, make the inner or outer wear out faster than the other. So we want to get rid of all that. There's a lot of rust buildup on this side. So we can take our wire brush and do that. Or our wire wheel on the bench grinder. There's quite a bit of rust, so I'm going to hit it with my Dremel tool. The other side. I'll show you how this hardware sits after that. I'm going to assemble the pads off the vehicle. It just seems to work out better for these. Looks good. So we're in Michigan. Rust is a daily battle here. We're going to put a little bit of grease where that rust was built up so it doesn't build up as much in the future. That actually is pretty huge in the long run around here. Alright, we've got some hardware. We're going to pop this hardware right on. All four hardwares are the same. That's not always the case with every vehicle, but this one, that is the case. Go, they're popped in. Put a little bit of grease where the ears of the pads are going to sit so they don't rust up into the hardware. I see that all the time in Michigan. These ones were pretty stiff when I took them out. Now, we'll put a little bit more grease on the ear of the pad, just the ear. where it sits into the hardware. I just spilled my bucket. This sucks. Alright, make sure you're putting the pads in the right way. The curved outer surface on the open side. We gotta figure out which way we want to put our clip on. So I gotta visualize it in my head. Alright, we want the clip right here. The squealer tab that came with this hardware kit. So the pad's gonna go in like this. We want it on this side. And this clip will pop into this new brake pad. Sometimes it takes some force, but it's in there now. See? When your brake pad gets that low, it'll make a little squealing noise to let you know it's time to change your brakes before you gouge up your rotors. These rotors, especially on the other side, were rusty. The other side was super rusty, not reusable. If you get any brake grease on your brake pads, make sure you spray them off with some brake cleaner. So we'll fit this pad in the ears, and we are all set for putting it back on the vehicle, all prepped up. So we'll move back to the vehicle. Bada boom. Grab our 2 bolts, our 2 15 mils, and go right over this guy. Try not to let the pads fall out of their little spots. Line them up, and we want to get these guys nice and tight. Get the bottom one started. Pad wants to come out on us. There we go. And we want to turn these guys, the slides, to the right position so that they fit into our caliper. Our caliper goes over there. And these guys do not like to press in far enough to get on the caliper. You really got to squeeze them, especially the one with the bushing. Give it a couple taps. Got that ear over, got to get, there we go. And our slider is not in the right position on the top. Well, it's almost in the right position, but when I tap it in, it goes into the wrong position. We need to get this guy to spin a little for us. It's kind of like wanting to sit in its own little groove. That should be pretty close. And these guys do not like to line up unless you have them perfect. It's just what they do. Gotta get these perfect to get them to start to thread in. There we go. That one started. This one needs a few taps inward. Upward, downward, inward, some which way. And it looks like this one swiveled on me too, so it won't go in far enough. Trying to get it to that flat spot. Come on, buddy. Don't you want to go in your home? There we go. A little tricky. Practice makes perfect. All right, now we'll tighten these down nice and tight. Don't use an impact on these. You can snap them off. You want them nice and tight, but not so tight that you snap them off. Then you're kind of screwed. And once these are tight, we're pretty much done with the job. We've got a few things to do. We're gonna prime our brake pads, get the press the brake pedal in and out slowly, like 5-10 times. So the caliper piston tightens up against the pads. If you just take off, you're not gonna have no brakes. You gotta press that brake pedal, prime it. And we'll bleed the brakes, check the brake fluid, throw the tire back on, and then we'll be good to go. Thanks for watching. If this helped, please like and subscribe. Appreciate it.